should shoppers be shamed for wanting a plastic bag? Julia Hales is an environmental author and a consultant who advises Marks and Spencer on carrier bag use. Hello, Julia.
Hello.
Oh, you're to blame, are you? So should shoppers be shamed for wanting a plastic bag?
Well, I think the answer to that is probably yes, because I heard your long discussion about not wanting to be feeling guilty about it, but I think that you should be feeling guilty because at the end of the day, it's one incredibly simple, easy thing that we can do. And in terms of taking a reusable shopping bag, and if you forget and you have to pay 5p, well, it's not the end of the world, and as you say, you've got some for your shoes to wrap in. But if you don't forget and you reduce the amount of plastic bags that you're getting through in a year, which is a huge quantity, far more than you could possibly use usefully in your house, and it's just to sort of become rather symbolic of our disposable society that we're living in.
No, all it's doing is giving the supermarkets more money in the long run, because I've never got enough carrier bags anymore to use as bin liners in my bathroom. I now have to give my supermarket more money so I can buy proper pedal bin bags. So it's just as much plastic.
I think that there are several answers to that question. I mean, the first is that actually, for example, Marks and Spencer give their money to groundwork anyway, to a charity, so they're doing sort of doubly good. They're reducing the amount of bags that are wasted and thrown away, and they're giving money to charity too. And secondly, you don't need to have a bag in your pedal bin in the bathroom anyway, or in your food bucket, or in any of the other things. A plastic bag for your main household rubbish is acceptable because that's the system that we use. But in all other bins, it's absolutely unnecessary.
Ugh. What, so if I put a bit of, sloppy tissue or whatever it is?
Yeah, put it in a pedal bin and pour it into the main bin. I think that you're, sort of becoming so sort of removed from the waste. If you create, waste, I think you shouldn't feel too disgusted by what you produce.
But don't you think that it's a bit odd that you go into a shop, you spend your hard-earned money in that shop, and then the shop have the audacity of saying, OK, well, thank you very much indeed for spending this money with us, but now we'd like more money if you want to take that stuff to your car without it falling all over the pavement.
Why is that odd? I mean, why do you expect anything for free from a shop? I can't really understand. It's just because you've been used to having something for free that you're sort of complaining about it being taken away.
Yeah, but
in fact, if you're consuming materials and resources and everything else, you should definitely be paying for it.
But the bag that you get from the supermarket then has their name written all over the side of it anyway, so as you trundle off down the high street, you're advertising them anyway.
That's absolutely fine, but of course it's a very good incentive to encourage people who are perhaps, disinclined because they sort of feel it might be of inconvenience in some ways. And I think what one has to realise that in the scale of the problems we're facing, refusing your plastic bag and taking a reusable one is just a very small thing that you can do. It doesn't have a huge impact, but it's very small. It's not that inconvenient. And if you can't even do that, what else are you not being able to do? And there are a lot of things that we need to do that really do take an effort. And I think it's so trivial that it's ridiculous to make a fuss about it.
But my recent holiday highlights the fact that we can do as much as we want, but while all the other countries are chucking carrier bags at their customers, it's not going to make the blindest bit of difference. Those turtles that the Daily Mail always prints pictures of with carrier bags around their feet, they're still going to have them because they're going to come from carrier bags in Taiwan or China or Argentina or wherever.
Well, I think the answer is that the marine pollution from plastics is absolutely enormous, and it's growing all the time. It's a very large proportion of the amount of plastics that go into that are thrown away, not obviously just plastic bags, and the impact is huge. And if we can reduce that where we can, that's great. If you do have a plastic bag, reuse it as many times as possible, and make sure that it goes to be recycled afterwards. And they can, and it's not just plastic carrier bags that are being recycled. You can also recycle the sort of carrier bags that you buy your vegetables and things in, and a lot of people don't realise that. And obviously you've got to try and make sure that it doesn't end up in the sea, but even if you put it into a landfill site, sometimes these things, escape and end up in the sea in some rather extraordinary way.
I know when you advised Marks and Spencer and when they kind of came out with this, it was all very fashionable and you had lots of kind of yummy mummies running around saying, oh yes, we must have our reusable bags in the back of the Honda. Do you think that things have changed now? Have people become a bit bored with it? And do they, like me, just want a blooming carrier bag?
I think that the answer to that is that a lot of people have got much more into the habit of bringing their own bag, and they just don't really notice it. So it isn't, there's not such a noise about it because effectively a lot of people are doing it. There are clearly some people who find it, like you do, too much of a hassle. But I just think, well, what are you prepared to do? Because we are in a state where we have a really serious problem with climate change and other issues like marine pollution. And I think it's such a small thing that you can do, and there are a lot more things that you should be doing, and stop complaining about it.
When my supermarket stops wrapping broccoli up in bubble wrap and everything else, that's when I'll perhaps think about my plastic bag usage.
Well, that's completely wrong, because actually it's really important to package food in for the supermarkets, and it means that you get much less food waste, and food waste has a far bigger impact than the plastic bag that's wrapped around it. So
Julia,
actually it's rather complicated, all these things.
Julia, I can see we're not going to agree.
Definitely not agree, because I think you should be doing more and more concerned about the environment and less worrying about the fact that you might be inconvenienced.